Hello, and welcome to the OADD RSIG tutorial video on creating an accessible PowerPoint presentation. My name is Olivia Dobson, and I'm a member of the OADD RSIG Conference Planning Committee. This tutorial is meant to provide extra guidance and examples for our presenters in terms of creating an accessible PowerPoint, and also to serve as a pairing with the accessibility guideline documents that we provide to our presenters. This can also serve as a standalone tutorial for helping people to make accessible PowerPoint presentations and also encouraging accessibility at other conferences. First of all, we recommend that presenters include a kind of introductory or accessibility slide at the beginning of their presentation. And you can adjust this template slide if you use it to fit your kind of presentation theme as desired. But in a nutshell, what we would like you to do is introduce yourself as a presenter, including your name and your preferred pronouns. And if you're comfortable, you can also provide your professional contact information, such as your email address, for people to follow up and contact you, for example, if they missed any information during your actual presentation. We also recommend that you include a trigger or a content warning for any potentially distressing information in your presentation, as well as having some bullet points around accessibility right within your presentation. So, for example, will you be describing any visuals that you have throughout your presentation, or do you have any other accessibility elements incorporated? And also briefly acknowledging whether you'll have your presentation materials accessible to the audience. So, will you be making your slides accessible? Is any content going to be removed from the materials that you make accessible? That kind of information. And then in general, it's helpful to use the built-in PowerPoint template slides. These have layouts that actually lend really well to accessibility and include placeholder boxes for text and images that align with screen reading softwares. So if somebody's using screen reading software to listen to the text in your presentation, it's actually helpful to properly align the text boxes in your presentation for this screen reading software. And so I'll briefly show you where these templates are under the Insert tab up here. Go over to New Slide, press the downward arrow, and you can see that there's all these different templates for different slides. And if you click on them, they have these placeholder boxes for text or images already incorporated, and the order of these placeholder boxes is already aligned for screen reading software. So that's a great way to easily, properly use those text boxes. If you would like to check the order that a screen reading software would read your text boxes, you can easily do this by clicking anywhere on your slide, and then pressing the Tab key on your keyboard. And whatever text box is highlighted first is the first text box that the screen reading software will read. If you press Tab again, it'll show you the next one in the sequence, and again, and you can keep pressing Tab until you see the entire sequence of what the screen reading software would read. If it's not the proper order, for example, if you created your own slide and inserted your own text boxes, and the order is not appropriate for kind of the proper sequence, you can adjust the order by clicking on a text box, right-clicking on a text box, and clicking Bring to Front with the first text box that you would like to appear in the sequence. So press Bring to Front, and then you can go to the next text box that you would like to appear in the sequence, and again, right-click, press Bring to Front, and repeat this process for the entire order of the text boxes. And then you can check that it worked, that it's the proper order, by clicking anywhere on your slide and using the Tab key method again to show the order of the text boxes. It's helpful to insert header slides throughout, such as individual slides that indicate to the audience what section you are going to be moving on to. So for example, you might want a header slide for introduction, method, findings, conclusion, that kind of thing. In general, it's helpful to use the built-in insert table feature right within PowerPoint if you're going to use tables. There's also a insert chart option where you can create bar graphs, pie charts, all those kinds of things right here within PowerPoint. But when it comes to tables, it's generally helpful to use the insert function, as these tables are easier to read with screen reading software when you do so. And when you create a table, try not to include blank columns, as this is confusing for screen reading software. Instead, if you would like to create blank space, you can just do so by creating a little bit of extra height or width in your table, like this. For example, if you have a box that has text, just extend the height or width of that text box a little bit to create the desired kind of blank space look. So I'll demonstrate briefly here inserting a table. If you go under the Insert tab, find Table, press the downward arrow, and then you can choose the height and width of your table. So if you would like a 4x4 table, for example, you can pick that grid, and then it will automatically insert into your slide, and you can move this table around, and you can also adjust coloring and size and shape and all that kind of thing for your table. So that's how you would insert a table right within PowerPoint, and we'll talk about coloring and fonts and stuff like that a little bit later. Using appropriate headings facilitates accessibility. So again, you can use the built-in placeholder boxes for text right within PowerPoint. And you can also use the proper kind of hierarchical structure of headings, where you have the first heading centered and bolded, and then the following headings are left justified. And you can also use bullet points underneath headings to indicate the reading order to your audience. And we generally advise not using bold text or italics instead of actually using proper headings. Alt text or alternative text for images and videos in your presentation is a really crucial way of increasing accessibility. So on this example here, you can see we have alt text input here for this logo image that we have on the slide. And the purpose of alt text is to kind of describe the important images in your presentation and also explicitly state what you expect people to kind of learn from that image. And this is helpful for people who may not be able to see the image or video, and it can help them to get everything out of your presentation in an accessible way. So the alt text should be a brief but detailed explanation of the image or video in your presentation. And you can insert alt text right within PowerPoint by going to the Review tab, clicking on the image or video or object in your PowerPoint presentation, finding Check Accessibility up here, pressing the downward arrow, and then finding alt text. You'll see this panel pop up on the far right where you can type your alternative text. And then the alt text will generally save for you when you exit. So if you would like to check it again, click on the image, alt text, and you'll see that your alt text is there. Another way to quickly check your alt text or add or edit alt text is to right click on your image or object, and then you can click View Alt Text as well to bring up this panel. There is a feature to generate alt text for you right within PowerPoint, and that can be helpful as a starting point. But in general, you should be describing your images and videos yourself so that you can really include a lot of appropriate detail in there. If a video or image is really complex to explain, another option would be to do your best to insert alt text, but then in the alt text box, say something like, see full description in the note section of my slide, and that way you can fully describe the image or video in more detail just within the actual note section of your slide. It's also important to make your videos accessible in PowerPoint, and one way of doing this is by inserting your video actually through PowerPoint. And how you'll do this is go under the Insert tab, find Video over here on the far right, press the downward arrow, and then you can insert your video from a desired location. So either your browser, from a file on your computer, a stock video, or an online movie. And we'll talk a little bit more about this feature here in a moment. But another way that you can make your video accessible is turning on synchronized captioning for the video or audio clip, and if possible, also providing a transcript of the video or audio clip as part of your digitally accessible materials. It's a really great feature of PowerPoint that you can actually embed videos within your slides, and they'll play right within your slide when you do it this way. So how you do this is you go under the Insert tab, find Video, press the downward arrow, and then Online Movie. This will bring up this little panel box here where you can paste your YouTube link or URL for your video. Sometimes I find this little box here lags or won't show the link when I paste it into this box. So if it's doing that for you, just try pressing Insert anyway, and it usually works. Then your video should embed right within your PowerPoint presentation like this, and you can move the video clip around and also adjust its size according to your liking. And then this allows you to play your video right within your PowerPoint presentation. So that is a great feature for accessibility, and you can also add alt text for your videos to increase accessibility. So you can do this the same way that we did for images, whether the video is in your presentation by having a kind of example screenshot and then a link, or whether it's embedded to play right within your video. You can add alt text the same way that you do for images. And another really great way to increase accessibility of your videos is to turn on closed captioning, or that synchronized captioning. And this can happen in YouTube by clicking the CC icon in the bottom right. So I'll show you an example here of playing a video that's embedded right within my presentation. And then I can press subtitles or closed captions here. Happy birthday to you. And you can see that the closed captioning is appearing in the video, and I can pause it and also adjust the sound right within PowerPoint. And there's just a few other recommendations that we have, including making the text or the font on your slides as large as possible or as appropriate for your PowerPoint presentation. A good rule of thumb can be about 25-point font and above. And we also encourage using simple fonts like the sans serif fonts. For example, I have Arial here on this slide, which is really easy to read. These complicated kind of fancy fonts often make the text less accessible, and writing in all caps can also make text less accessible. We also recommend that you avoid too many distracting animations. Although these can be fun, it actually is distracting and can confuse screen reading software. So only use these sparingly if you have to, or not at all. Also, we recommend avoiding distracting graphics or unnecessarily cluttering your slides with graphics and text. As you can see here, this is a crowded slide, and the text message on my slide is very hard to read when there's all of these distracting images, so try to avoid this if possible. And then when choosing colors on your slides, try to choose high contrast pairings. So for example, a black background with bright yellow font has really high contrast, but it's really hard to see this dark blue font over top of a black background. So try to consider that and consider readability when you're designing your slides. And generally choose these high contrast pairings if possible. When in doubt, you can always use black and white pairings because this always has really high contrast. So that concludes this tutorial, and I hope that you found it helpful for providing some guidance around creating accessible PowerPoint presentations. Please feel free to reach out to the OADD RSIG team if you have any questions or comments. We look forward to seeing you at our conference, and thanks so much for listening.